Hello, everybody. Welcome to what I would say is probably my most vulnerable podcast episode yet. And I have zero issue with vulnerability. But this is big stuff for me to share because it's not just about like going through a little bit of a personal body transformation, weight loss, that kind of thing. This is really about so much more. And I think that for any of you who have been in business for any period of time, or any of you coaches who have worked with clients, you are going to understand bits and pieces of this. And maybe you haven't had the same struggles in the same ways, but I'm going to be really, really curious to kind of hear how this is received. And one of the reasons that I decided to share this today is because I talk to so many clients and prospective clients, and oftentimes they will end up feeling just extremely alone in their emotion around their business. And I am here to help with that. And so I think by sharing my story with you all today, it can give you some insight into your own experiences. And I just hope that this is truly helpful for you. Okay. So, as I mentioned, this is super vulnerable, and I am almost 40. I have never really had a weight problem before, although, of course, I always thought that I did, right? When I was growing up, I was a dancer, and I remember learning. I think it was as a teenager that if I were going to be a ballerina at my height, I wouldn't be able to be more than 105 pounds. And I was like, I don't know, I was like 115 or 120 pounds, but I thought, that was so overweight. And then, I was watching the Kate Mosses and like these waif models of the world, and everyone was so skinny. And I was always a little bit more broadly built. So I've always been kind of naturally muscular. And I just didn't have appreciation for that. I don't think probably most girls growing up in the 90s did. But also, you, especially when you're in the health and fitness industry, right? Like I always kind of joke with people. I'm like, I don't think anyone else's news feed looks quite like mine, where they are just constantly seeing people's healthy meals and their workouts, because my whole audience and all of my connections are other health and fitness coaches and things like that. So I'm always like, I'm the least in shape person and I eat the worst. I say it kind of as a joke, but it's kind of when you're in this space, it's very much in your face what other people are doing, right? And so I have always fluctuated like, probably most women, and have always thought that I could be in a better position or leaner or whatever. But it never really occurred to me to do something about other than the times where I would like cut a little bit of weight for certifications and things where there was a weight class and that kind of stuff. But that was never drastic. So let's let's just talk. Actually, I want to circle back to the story and how I ended up having to go through this 20-pound weight loss journey. But I want to just talk about the emotion of business first, because it's all related. So I had never really had anxiety before starting my own business. And actually, it was even before starting my gym, when I was really busy working in New York City, and I was employed by a luxury corporate health club. But I also was doing like in-home training, and I was kind of running my own business at that point as well. And I think for me, the stress of living in New York City in combination with all of that it was a lot, and it was a lot of responsibility. And so I first kind of started developing this anxiety around my work when I was living in New York. And then when I opened my gym, that was like a whole new level of things, right? I felt responsible for people in a way that I had never felt responsible for them. Money was obviously a huge thing, because starting a gym is very intense. It's very expensive. And there's just like so much that comes up with that, right? And so I was so like, and if you have your own business, basically your brain is on 24/7. And of course, like I take days off and things like that, but it's like you're always kind of thinking in the back of your mind about your business, because it is really truly an extension of you. And I actually believe that if you're doing business right, it's an extension of your soul, right? But we can get ourselves so emotionally wrapped up in our business that it can create a lot of challenges for us. And I remember after I sold my gym, there was part of me that was sad because it had been so amazing. But then also I had moved and I had gotten divorced, and it was kind of like this whole fresh chapter in my life. And I remember the first Saturday morning waking up after I sold my gym and thinking, oh my gosh, I don't feel like the pressure to go respond to email or to go answer, things on my computer or to go get to work. Right. And it was just kind of really nice for a minute there. And then I was doing business coaching, working for another company at the time, which I've mentioned to you guys before. And that was going great and I loved it. And eventually, though, that didn't go great anymore. And all of the stress that I was feeling, or that I recall feeling with my gym, was present, and again, but for a different reason. It was because I was miserable, because there was so much pressure, because a lot of different things, right? So that kind of started to resurface. And so it was an interesting way for me to observe emotion in my life as it pertains to my career. And of course, leaving that position was one of the scariest things ever. I should have done it a year and a half before I did. Hindsight's always 2020, right? But when it comes to starting Authentic Conversion, it's just been so amazing, right? Growing into the multi-millions in just a couple of years, helping, like, oh my gosh, it's well over 1,000 clients just in this business around the world over the last 4 years. It's been amazing. And I've made a lot of money. I've worked with so many clients, and all of the joy that comes with that has also been paired, right? Because everything has two sides, everything has the light and the dark side. When you make lots of money and you help lots of clients, it's so incredible. So, so, so incredible. But for me, what came up was then suddenly I had more to lose. And I started wearing other people's burdens. I started taking responsibility for other people and how they were showing up and what they were doing and for their results. And that was a huge, huge contributor to not being, I don't know what the word is, but it's like it's not being able to fully enjoy this beautiful thing that I have created, right? And so what ended up happening is it caused me to kind of go deep into business focus so that I was really living 100% of the time for my business. And I think, again, I don't think that's necessarily wrong, because when you're doing business, right, it should feel like this natural, organic extension of who you are. And I definitely feel that way about my business. But this was I can recall in the first year, I started to tell myself some stories about needing to be in isolation, needing to spend time alone and just really focus and create and build the success and help people, right? I went really, really deep on that very, very quickly. And I would travel alone with my dog, and we would go to Central America, South America. We went to Europe now twice, and I would travel and work, and I loved it because I got to do the things that I love, like experiencing other cultures and being in other parts of the world. And I love doing that with my dog. But it also allowed me to be in kind of complete solitude where I felt I could really, really focus in. And I think it worked for me for a while, truthfully. I think it really helped me get clear on what I wanted to create. I think it helped me be so good at what I do and help my clients get such awesome results. And I actually think showing up that way at that time served me really, really well. And then 2020 hit. And I was actually in Mexico finishing up 3 months in Central America when I came home a couple weeks early due to everything happening with the pandemic. And you guys, I probably don't have to tell you this, but 2020 was unkind. It was unkind. Okay. I felt so limited. I felt so restricted. I felt so disappointed that all of this freedom that I'd worked to create was not available. And it's not like I thought it was going to be that way forever, because that's certainly not true. But I'm the kind of person where I want to be able to snap my fingers, go anywhere I want at any time without restrictions. And that was obviously pulled away. That location freedom, that just freedom to do whatever I want, whenever I want, is my highest value. And it's something I've worked so hard to create. And so in those feelings of limitation and in restriction, I think that I created a closer relationship with food than I ever had before. It was kind of like entertainment. And I, was spending even more time alone at the time. And I started to feel myself gaining the weight, but it's like, it wasn't that bad. Even at 20 pounds heavier than I am now, it wasn't like, I'm using air quotes, like it wasn't that bad, right? I didn't feel like my clothes still fit. It wasn't overwhelming. And it was actually seeing a couple of different photos that made me wake up and go, oh my gosh, is that really what you look like? Right. Because I don't know if you've ever gone through these experiences, but sometimes you look in the mirror or whatever, and you're like, okay, it's fine. It's totally fine. And I've fluctuated probably between like 10 pounds, but never 20 pounds. Right. And I thought when I decided to make the change, it was actually in May of 2021. And I really thought the problem was that I wasn't paying attention to food enough, right? That had kind of become a little bit of entertainment through the isolation that came with COVID and all of that stuff. I thought that was the problem. And as I'm going to share with you, I realized that actually was maybe 20% of the problem. And I'll come back to where that revelation came in. So I hired a macro coach, and I'd never counted macros before. Everything had just been pretty intuitive and easy my whole life. And I thought, okay, well, I'm getting older. That's that stuff my clients used to talk about like what used to work doesn't work anymore. And so I hired this macro coach after seeing the highest weight I'd ever seen on the scale and thinking like, that can't be right. And I lost about 8 to 9 pounds. And I did that over, I guess it was about 2 months, right? And I was frustrated too, because I was thinking, oh my gosh, if I had been like in my early 30s or my late 20s or whatever, I could have just thought about this and it would have changed. But it was a lot of effort, right? But I lost the 8 or 9 pounds, and then I got stuck. Despite eating really like 90% on track and doing CrossFit, average of 5 days per week, being really active. It was summertime. I was walking and hiking with my dog a lot. And I was like, what the heck is going on? And I felt a lot better than I did when I started. So I wasn't too upset, but I was getting really frustrated because I was like, okay, well, I don't really know what else to do here. Do I just like stop having a social life? Like, what do I need to do to fix this? And then, my friends, I went to Switzerland for 5 weeks. So my dog and I went to Switzerland for 5 weeks. And I was actually really a little bit stressed going into that because I had made progress already. I didn't want to backtrack. I was staying in hotels. I didn't even have a refrigerator most of the time that I was there. And so I was trying to be conscientious of it, but I realized really, really quickly that it was going to be challenging. And so, I brought my protein shakes and my bars and all of that stuff. And I did do that. But honestly, some of the times what was available was like bread and cheese or heavy meats or whatever. And so very quickly, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do the best that I can and I'll worry about it when I get back. So I go to Switzerland, I ate what was available, and I hiked a lot. And I had these like grand ideas that I would go for a hike during the day and then I would go to the gym later, although there wasn't even a gym available in the entire village that I was in for the first 2.5 weeks. But when I moved for the second half of the trip, I was like, oh yeah, I'll totally go to the gym. And of course, that never happened. So I was mostly hiking. Some days it would be 2 hours, some days it would be 5. But I wasn't like climbing the Matterhorn or anything. It was, some of them were very strenuous, but nothing out of the ordinary compared to what I do here in my hometown of Asheville, North Carolina. It was just, I guess, more frequent. And so I would say about 3 weeks into the trip, I started feeling like my clothes were really baggy. And I started noticing that. But as I was noticing that, I also noticed that I didn't just feel physically lighter. And honestly, that part I didn't notice so much. I don't think I would have noticed a change had my clothes not started to feel baggy. But I actually felt emotionally lighter than I had in years because I was taking care of myself in a way that I hadn't in years. And for the first time since starting my business, I was tending to my own needs first and I put my business second. And I made some really scary decisions, actually, even before I went to Switzerland, about my marketing and how I was going to be doing enrollments and things like that. And that was super scary stuff because, of course, I did the math on, okay, what if I do this? What if I don't? And it was a lot of money to quote unquote put on the line. But I decided, you know what? I'm going to take care of myself first. I need this. This is a requirement for me. And it was scary. It was so scary, you guys. But what happened was I came back to my 2 biggest revenue months ever in my business. So August, I still worked. I still coached my clients, but I didn't really do a lot of like marketing and sales and promotion and things like that. So my hours were much, much more limited than they normally are, but I still serviced all of my clients. So it wasn't like huge changes there were actually no changes to my client service and delivery schedule. But I came back to my two biggest months ever in my business. And I just think to myself now, reflecting back on it, it was like it was in the mountains, it was in the Alps that I was able to release the weight of expectations and the demands of others. And I connected with nature and I found peace. And I bonded with my dog so deeply, like we were just one and the same. And I experienced a new culture, right? So I did these things that really fulfill me, like being in nature, being with my dog, experiencing new countries and cultures. And I gave myself permission for the first time in years to take the pressure off and to focus on doing things that brought me joy and made me feel like I was growing every single day because I was out there, I was having these experiences. And you guys, a result of that was that the weight fell off effortlessly without paying attention to food, without hitting the gym. It fell off effortlessly because my emotion was lighter than it had been in years. And I fully believe that the emotional weight that you carry will often show up in your body. Okay. And for me, it showed up as like extra weight. For you, it might show up as disease or like a lot of different things. But the emotional weight we carry, and it's often, for me anyway, and for many of my clients, it's around our business, is a reflection of it's reflected in our bodies, right? The weight literally fell off effortlessly. And now I'm back to where I was in my late 20s in terms of like my actual weight number on the scale, but I'm leaner because I've been doing much more lifting than I did then. And really right now, my number one focus, and it has to be since coming back from Switzerland and having this really transformational experience, I decided that my number one focus has to be continuing to deepen the connection that I have with myself. And in order to do that, I've been doing a ton of work. I've been working with a mentor. She's over in Scotland, and she's completely opened my eyes. She's changed my world. We coach together almost every single week, and it has been transformational for me. She has taught me things that never even crossed my mind, and it's been so powerful. And I've been working with a Reiki, like energy practitioner here, and I've been doing so much of this inner work and prioritizing myself over everything else. And what I've learned from that is that the results are no different in my business. I still create awesome results with my clients. I still get great outcomes. I still make great money, but it's the experience that I have while doing that that gets to transform. And that experience of the emotions that I have that affects my physical body that I now know for better or for worse. And so that number one focus must be for me, and I think for you as well, continuing to deepen the connection that you have with yourself and prioritize yourself first always. Okay. Because here's the thing is business building money comes from effort, but it also comes from how I and how you care for yourself and what you prioritize. And your ability to receive and create peace and happiness and joy, that's all up to you, as it's all up to me for myself. No one else can do that for you. And there's no point of arrival. I used to think that when I made a certain amount of money or that I achieved a certain level of success, that all of those things would come, the peace, the happiness, the joy, the ease, all of that. And that is absolutely not true. I can vouch for you 100%. No amount of money will make you feel those things, and no amount of money will make you feel safe and secure if you don't decide that you are. It's all a decision, and we all have the power to make that decision. It's the thoughts that you have about yourself, your business, your clients. Those things create the weight or the disease or whatever negative experience you're having in your physical body because of the negative emotions that you're creating for yourself in your business. And you get to choose how you feel. You get to choose how your business, your clients, etc., you get to choose how they affect you. And here's the thing that I've decided is that ever since I have ever started selling anything, right? I can even think about this like serving in restaurants, right? I always deliver 100% of what I promise. And I'm there to support people. but I am no longer willing to attach myself to them in any way. I don't attach myself to their emotions, to their behavior, to how they show up. Because guess what? The people I work with, and unless you're working with children, the people that you work with are adults, and I am not responsible for them, and you are not responsible for them. And here's the thing also is that I know you want transformation and success and results for your clients as I do. That is why I get up every single day. It's why I do what I do. But I also have come to understand that everyone is walking their own path. Okay. And just because someone comes to you and they say they want a transformation doesn't mean they're actually ready for it. So show up for them, but do not take responsibility for them. Okay. Everyone is walking their own path. That is true for you, and it's true for your clients as well. So I would love to hear how this sits. And I'm curious for any of you, have you ever noticed your body carrying the weight of your business, whether it's an extra physical weight like what I had, whether it's in disease, whether it's in mental health? I'd be so curious for you to share with me. And you can do that by either connecting with me over on social media, Nicole Spencer, or on my free Facebook group, which is Authentic Conversion Organic Six-Figure Fitness Business. And I just think that these are the types of conversations that we need to be having more and more and more of, because being an entrepreneur, being a coach, it carries a lot of responsibility, right? And we want to take on other people's results and other people's success. And you simply cannot. Okay. You have to show up, give what you have promised, and let people do what they will do. Okay. I do not want you having the same experience as me, where after years and years and years of taking on for other people, that you experience a negative result in your physical body. So a little bit different from strategy, but I'm also super curious to hear how this sits with you. And I look forward to your feedback and to seeing you in the next episode.